Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Friday here on Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantel, your hostess with the mostest, and as our amazing guest, uh, uh, fourth week now. I'm very, very grateful and happy to have Holly Baglio as she takes us through the next stage of her journey. That's going to be quite awesome again. And I want to just say hello, everybody. Leanne, Joanne, Ellie, everybody in the chat, Girl and the Gong, Tammy, Kimberly. So good to see you guys. And thank you for hanging out with me on a Friday night. And just a quick announcement before I bring Holly on with us. Yep, we'll pop a channel up in the meantime. Um, there won't be a show with Beverly Rhodes and Aquana tomorrow. Unfortunately, Aquana won't be back from their sacred site. Probably airing that next Saturday, but we will keep you updated. Yay! Speaking about Beverly, if you guys didn't catch the show with Dr. Dennis, Carol, and Beverly on Monday, wild! Go and catch it because it really is about vampires unmasked, and not the movie type either. These are people with, well, Beverly specifically, and I know Dr. Dennis as well, but in very different ways, has had first-hand experiences with these creatures of the night. She was a vampire nanny. Okay, without any further ado, tell them, beautiful Holly, how
Hi,
are
beautiful.
you?
Good, Shanti. It's great to be back. Thank you so much.
It's
Hello,
really good to have you back. Mhm.
hello to everybody in your chat room.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a wonderful chat room, and always, I mean, I definitely have awesome chats and awesome viewers. That is for sure. And I was just saying it the other day. It's really cool to have you guys, and just the way you support our overcomers is a really beautiful thing. So thank you again. Holly, 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 Holly. Wow. What an interesting journey you've had on this channel so far, just sharing your story. I don't know. I think what would be really cool, and tonight is not the last night, by the way. I thought we would do like four, so just to let you guys know. But we do have, I think it's Leo Zagami next Friday. So then we will, if Holly agrees, of course, to
Oh, of
continue
course. Yeah.
after that. I think it's just so fascinating hearing, and there's a lot of Montauk stuff that's coming to the surface right now. Not just your story, but Chris Latera, and also his book. I mean, it's fascinating. You know, his book is a deposition, his deposition, and his journey of uncovering. And you know, truly, I believe from what I've seen, and also the people that have worked for him, with him, in uncovering his memories, that he is probably the original Duncan Cameron. So it's just amazing. And yet, I know also they've put guys forward in the past who the age of that guy didn't match. So, and it's really when the true guys, it's like start coming out. And Holly, I'm sure you can attest to that as well. I mean, and I'm saying that for you as well, because I really think that you would probably, correct me if I'm wrong, be in the same similar type of category,
I think
are
so.
discredited, right? You really are discredited. They'll put certain people out in the front who are very articulated with all the information, but then the ones that are truly the ones that have had it and have the most sort of secrets are the ones that are obviously hit the hardest when it comes to disclosing and stuff like that. What's your take on that as a matter of interest, just in terms of whistleblowers like yourself disclosing information and coming out of, and I know we're going to talk about literally the day you woke up. but just also, just generally, um, your take on, especially now, because I've kind of seen it in different phases, right? Of survivors and sleepers that are waking up now. What's your take on whatever's going on right now?
Um, I'm hoping that people like Chris and myself and others, by coming forward, we can say words to help wake people up that have been programmed. So then they have an opportunity to deprogram and heal and not be used in the future. But as far as coming forward, oh, geez, you take a lot of risks. Like, I think the deprogramming and healing process should be kept private, unless, of course, you feel called and an urgency to be a whistleblower. Um, then by all means. But like when I came forward, people were messing with my recovery. I didn't fully reintegrate until December 2022. So all of those years online, people would throw things at me to try to discredit me, or try to mess with me. But I had a pretty good foundation in who I was. But also, the predators come back and they spy on you. And if you're too close to the truth, they'll throw a stumbling block in your way to throw you off where you're at. Like, for instance, I had studied from Russ Dizdar, and in his teachings, he had mentioned something about plants or disinformation agents. And I may have bumped into one at a pulpit. And when I was, when I asked him why was I running through the neighborhood naked, which we'll get into, he told me, "Oh, Holly, no, you were just at a private person's house and a private person abused you." But meanwhile, with my testimony and given his like 30, 40, 50 years knowledge, experience, and big name colleges, take 20 minutes to list all of his credits, I guess you'd say. Um, he protected Queen Elizabeth, and he threw me off her scent. So he knew by my testimony that I had been put through these human hunting parties that Queen Elizabeth has thrown. And when I was talking about being chained up in Buckingham Palace dungeons with the man and woman abusing us children, very specific details. So for someone like Douglas Riggs, with all of his experience, he should have identified that, but he protected the Queen and said I was somewhere else. So you take that kind of risk. But I've heard, watching other people's testimonies, I've heard other people say where somebody came up, offered them money, and now they're off grid and they're not interested in talking. But that did not happen in my case. So I just overall have a general feeling that maybe I should not talk about the programmers if they're still alive, because I want to stay alive. But I wanted to talk about it. Talking about it sets me free, and talking about it is my way to go back for the other kids. And so I can't sit still, and I got a loud mouth. So, whistleblowing was definitely a good choice for me in this capacity, because I'm willing to talk. But a lot of other people, I do not blame them for not even wanting to come forward, because there's so many risks. And I've only really fallen under death threat a couple of times. At the one time was around 2 weeks before Max Spears' assassination. I was between two men. And I had no communication with Max Spears at the time. I didn't pick up on what was going on until, he was assassinated. But anyway, I try to tiptoe lightly through the tulips and be mindful just not to say the programmers' names. But as far as presidents, politicians, and the Rothschilds, they need to be exposed. They need to be exposed. So I hope I answered the question. Good.
No, you certainly did. I think it's very relevant, and it's almost like I'm feeling there's different layers. It's almost like the deeper stuff is coming up now. You know, I'm trying to find the right words. I was just saying today, the first interview that we did on this channel 5 years ago was with Jesse Zabota, and we went straight in. We spoke about the unaliving of her proctor beheading, and then the cannibalization. Like, I mean, that was like exactly the first interview we did, right? So this channel has been talking about the deep stuff for a very long time. And we see now more and more other channels are exposing stuff we spoke about then, which is amazing. And I almost feel like, with people like yourself, and especially the Montauk survivors, because there's a lot of Montauk people that I'm actually speaking to at the moment. Alkim Ra as well, and of course Chris Latara, and there's just and the secret space programs. These are things that are also coming to the surface. And it is so bizarre. It is almost more bizarre than child transportation to me on a whole different level. I mean, that there are planets or colonies out there that humans are colonizing and destroying the natural habitat on those colonies. And what you guys have experienced there. This is stuff that we didn't even dream of. And now, guys like yourselves are bringing it to the fore. So we really are getting a lot, which is amazing. So thank you. And I know it's difficult to testify because there is a lot of kickback. And I think part of that kickback, from what I see, and I've observed this over the time I've been working on these channels, is that, or on the shows, is that when the survivors first start speaking, they first, like, maybe they first wake up, right? And they start getting memories and they start speaking. And it's like there's a general thing that the ones that surround them and love them actually ostracize them. So it's that I can't believe it. That's what I've seen the majority of times happens. You'll have one or two family members or friends that are going, I believe you. But the general concept, the general experience, if you want to put it that way, I can't quite find the right word, is that initially they are absolutely ostracized. And I don't know, did you find that as well? Did you find the friends and work colleagues and family were also, as you started speaking? Because I would imagine it must be so crazy when you first start receiving your memories. And lots of viewers have said our shows have started triggering and bringing stuff up in them, which is the healing in itself. And I thank God that you guys have someone that can help you through that. But yeah, I just love to hear your take on all of what I'm saying. Really, just the awakening, the dealing with a family, your surroundings, life after waking up and realizing what you've been forced into.
Yeah, it sucked because some of my friends I didn't want to trust. I didn't even want to go to them when I first started waking up. Other friends thought I was being radical and off my rocker, and they just me go to a loony bin because they didn't understand. And not that I did at the time to be able to explain it to them, but I basically had my attorney, and he was my father figure, and I came online to find like-minded people. Um, my biological mother and possibly another family member who I won't mention, my sister, called the police on me, thinking that I had absolutely lost my mind. Um, to digress a minute, when I first met Russ Dizdar, he thought I lost my mind, like mentally ill. Except he had a survivor with him, and she was like, Russ, Holly's from the dumps. Holly's a programmed individual. Like, you need to talk to her. But when I first met Russ Dizdar, I couldn't even talk. I had my attorney with me. I had approached Russ Dizdar at a conference in April 2015. But I would say it just sucked waking up. I mean, great for the internet because I found some support, but offline, I didn't have anybody, no one. Um, so the other thing that happened, the pivotal time period that I woke up was December 2014. And there was one morning where I had woken up and I couldn't take it anymore. Um, I couldn't tell the difference between the memories from the programming, the trauma and torture, and then also being sent on assignments and missions and being on the secret space program and all of that. Plus, I'm deep into my faith, and I believe I have dreams and visions, and I believe we're in the end times. So those dreams can be scary too. And everything was just tangled and knotted up. I couldn't make odds or ends. Um, so basically, December 20th, 2014, I woke up one morning and I that's exactly what happened. I couldn't tell the difference between the programming or what was going to happen. I wound up calling the police on myself 2 times that morning. A police officer came to the house. Um, I can laugh about it now. I was crying back then. So excuse me if I tend to laugh. It is kind of a little embarrassing, but it's a funny story. So I called the police on myself twice. 2 detectives, and the police came out to my house. I was living in Newfoundland, New Jersey, renting an expensive couch, keeping my cat and dog and I together because I had just lost my apartment. And the reason why I lost my apartment was I ran out of money to support myself, and I had to wait 3 months for disability to kick in. It took me 8 years to get my full disability. And that's another red flag as far as like my claim to being a super soldier and coming from deep underground military bases. A typical person, even an illegal immigrant, will take approximately 2.5 years to get disability benefits. But I fought for mine for 8 years. I was denied 3 times. So I went through hell. Um, but anyway, on December 20th, the cops showed up. I asked them to take me to the hospital. I had not been sleeping or eating, and I didn't know what was going on with me. And what it was the MK Ultra. The MK Ultra programming was wearing down, and I was having a flash flood of memories. So the officer told me they were too busy to take me, but he hung out long enough for me to read his future, so to speak. So without getting into that, he wound up leaving. And there I was at the house. And I guess I had a memory of the human hunting parties. And all of a sudden, my mind started to melt. I don't know how to explain it except to say my mind melted. What soldiers come back from war with when they have shell shock. One foot was back in the human hunting party in the past, and the other foot I was trucked on the ground here in reality. And I had a little bit of control, but not much. And as I sat on the couch, I just hear run, run, run. And at that point, I'm up on my feet. I kiss my cat and dog goodbye. I don't say anything to the roommate, and I go off running down the street. It was in the middle of winter. I was in socks, sweatpants, and a t-shirt, and I ran into a kennel, and the people there told me I could not call the police or wait there. So I continued walking down a highway. I came into a gas station. I walked to the gas station and I said, "Can I make a phone call? I need help. I've had a really bad day." And I know the one guy that works here. He pumps my gas all the time. And that guy said, "No problem." I called Jonathan Kahn looking for help. Nobody picked up. I called my attorney, but I only had his work number and he had not gotten to work yet. I had not memorized his cell phone number. The whole time that I'm walking down the highway, my mind is melting. It's flipping between somebody's chasing me to kill me. And now I knew that nobody was there, but when I had that 1 foot back in the human hunting party, I could see other girls, other people with me, and they were naked and they were running too. In this reality, I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. Nobody around me knew what was going on. I was scared to look at the sun because I thought if I looked at the sun, it would burn my eyes out. And that goes back to the secret space program. But anyway, so at the gas station, again, I could not find any help. And every time a car came in, the ringing bells would go off. Well, that was making my mind flip. So I darted out of there. I had no idea where I was going. I wound up stumbling into someone. I wound up in a development of houses. And oh my goodness, I know it's going to sound crazy, but as I'm walking through a development, I was thinking I need to find somebody to call 911. I really need to go to the hospital. I have not been sleeping. I have not been eating. I don't know what's happening to me, but I know I need help. The cops are too busy. Maybe somebody else is not too busy. But it was strange too, because certain people I looked at, when I looked at their faces, it would look like a normal human at first, but then all of a sudden their eyes would turn dark and their mouth would turn dark, and oh, it was like their face would morph, but not everybody's face. So in this development, I saw a treehouse and it made my mind flip. And for some reason, I thought that there was a flood of water coming. I wound up hiding in the treehouse. While in the treehouse, when I got up there, the kids had their toys set up with guns pointed out the window, and I already had a mind full of chaos. I was already running from Nazis trying to kill me. I was already running from people trying to kill me. So when I saw these toy guns, my mind started melting. But eventually I regained my composure, so to speak, and I collected myself. And I'm like, "Holly, you got to get out of this treehouse." So I climb out of the treehouse. But then, sure enough, my mind starts flipping again. I wound up stripping down my clothes, running around the house and the yard, hiding down, ducking in bushes, because I was reenacting human hunting parties that I had been put through. I am so glad that people were at work that morning. And at one point, I laid down in the grass and I told myself, "All right, that's it, Holly. I've had enough. Naked or not, you're laying in this grass until Jesus comes and raptures you out of here. And if it's not until 6 p.m. tonight, I guess you're going to be laying here all day long." Well, it was sleeting that day, but I guess after about 10-15 minutes, my mind slowed down. I was able to regain my composure somewhat, go and grab my clothes and put them on. I'd lost my vape pen and I think my cell phone at that point. But again, I started walking through the development to think of a way to ask somebody to call the police. I need to go to the hospital. I found my way to a house, and I wound up walking in the house instead of knocking. And it was a woman with her 9-year-old daughter. And as soon as I walked in her house, I dropped to the floor on my butt and I put my hands up and my head on my knees. And her big dog came running over to me. And I was like, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I fell. I bumped my head. I don't remember my name. I can't remember if my name's Holly Baglio, which I used to use that name in this normal life, or if it's Holly Baglio. Gabriel was my mother's maiden name that she made me grow up under using. She would never let me use Baglio, but when I was 18, I went with the name that was on my birth certificate, and that was Baglio. But anyway, I said, ma'am, please call the hospital. Well, the cops showed up, but that was another fiasco because it was 2 officers, and they came in the house, and I was still curled up in a knot. But this woman was so kind. She gave me a pair of dry socks and a hoodie sweatshirt to wear. And she said, don't move, my dog will bite you. But I was like, ma'am, I'm not moving. I really just need help to go to the hospital. I fell. I bumped my head. I don't remember. When the cops showed up, the one officer wanted to take me to jail. And I'm like, I don't belong in jail. So I literally pulled down my pants, lifted up my shirt, standing there. I can't believe I did that. Completely naked before these 2 police officers. And I said, listen, I'm crazy. I do not belong in the jail. I belong in a psych ward, and I would like to go to the hospital right now. I'm fully disabled, and I can't remember what my name is or where I live. And this cop actually the first cop drew his gun on me. The second cop looked me dead in my eyes and he said, Holly, I will make sure you get to the hospital. Please put your clothes back on. And after a little bit more convincing, I complied, and the second officer called for an ambulance, and I was more than happy to get in that ambulance and go to the hospital. Once I was at the hospital, I was kissing the ground, literally kissing the ground just to be there, but I was still losing it, like the mind melt. When the doctors came in to give me a shot to relax me, I thought it was the mark of the beast. And I was, saying I don't choose the beast, I choose Jesus, and I go with the light, and I don't agree to this, and it's against my will. But I let them give me the shot. I knew I needed sleep. And it was funny, though, because when they brought me into the emergency room, they just left me in a room with the bed sheets and unmade bed and a hospital gown. So when I went to make my bed, I laid the sheet down, and then I took the mattress sheet and put that last, and I hooked the mattress sheet over the 3 corners, and I crawled into that bed like it was a little cocoon, and I just left a hole so I could breathe out it. And that's where I stayed until the doctors came back to talk to me. And I signed myself into the mental ward for 6 days, and I started eating and sleeping again. And after that, I put my whole deprogramming process up on the internet, so everybody went through it with me. And I learned as I went. And I crashed and burned a ton of times. And I think the predators did come back to throw a wrench in the works. And people do not have your best interest in mind. So I think that it would have been a better idea to keep that whole process private. And then if I wanted to whistleblow, present myself once I was stronger, looking back. But I didn't have anybody. So I had the internet, though, and that's where I went. So after that, I lost my speaking abilities for 10 months. It was really hard for me to talk. I could it. So I pretty much sat at my computer, dove into my faith, and started researching stuff, looking things up. I started running live videos and whatnot, I think in 2015. But there's something I'm forgetting. This is what it is. I actually lived with my attorney for 6 months, and there was one occasion where the cops had called me up and said, well, we want you to drive back up here an hour near Newfoundland. We want to speak to you, da 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 da. And I was like, no, there's no reason for me to leave the sanctity of my attorney's house to drive over an hour to talk to you guys when I've not broken a law. There's no reason for that. My car inspection is overdue. I can't make it. So my attorney was there when I first woke up. He even picked me up from the hospital. So at least with him, I had one person, and he was willing to protect me, and he believed me. Nobody else did. So I was really grateful for my attorney. But yeah, so I hope that answers it.
Wow.
I believe I ran through a
Wow,
neighborhood.
Holly. That is just wild. I have a couple of questions just sort of relating
Yeah.
back to what you were saying. I found it very interesting, obviously, and I love the way you explaining your awakening process. I don't know what is the right word, awakening, whatever. I will call it awakening
Yeah.
because I think the way you explained it gave such depth to your situation in terms of you had one foot on the earth and the other foot still in the hunting party. And I can imagine that split between the two worlds is exactly what you explain. And again, I couldn't have thought of a better word myself than melting of your brain. I love the word melting because it's like honey melting. Okay. You know, to me, that melting feeling is a pleasant thing. But I can completely imagine that when you're going through what you're going through, it's not a pleasant thing at all. Because explain to us, if you can, the washing machine in your head in those moments of trying to find your balance between the past that is obviously still very active. And again, is it really the past? Because we know these guys are not working past, present, future. It's all a timeline. So it's so boggling to the human brain, I would imagine, when you're living on Earth in this little third dimension, and then suddenly you're waking up to this 50 million dimensional world that you yourself have been involved in. So, yeah, what is that washing machine type process? And how do you filter? How did you filter between then and now?
Oh boy. I hope I understand the question. A lot of time, just a lot of time. My knees were knocking. Every day it felt like the ground beneath my feet was quaking. I was a nervous wreck. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't even know how to explain myself. I didn't even care at that point. I just let my roommate at the time and my other friends think whatever they wanted to think because I was such a mess mentally. Um, my brain, I don't know if this is what you're looking for. Like, when you talk, Shanti, you're the hostess with the mostest, and you have your greeting and your announcements, and then your introduction and your questions, and you roll into it, and you have paragraphs in your head. My mind broke down to a letter. It broke down to a letter. Everything was compartmentalized, like driving. I used to blame it on my fibromyalgia. Quite sure my fibromyalgia is the only culprit, but like driving, when you're going from point A, you're going to pass by point B, and point C is your destination. For me, point A, point B, and point C were right on top of each other. And so, like, there's time and distance between the points, but my brain was just all clumped and tangled. I started to make drawings of each thought, whether it was a dream or memory. I would draw it, or an experience. I would draw it and put it on paper. And when I had about 40 drawings, I laid them out on the floor, and I started to make piles of, okay, did I really experience this and go through this as a super soldier? Is this a memory? Is this a dream? Or, you know, so I separated everything into categories to try to untangle, and that really worked. That definitely helped. Sorry.
I think it's so amazing. You explain it so succinctly, and I really have to compliment you on that, because you really are giving us a very succinct picture of what it feels like to come out of that hell, because there's no other word for it. So, and I was going to ask you also about the melting of the brain, and that you've already explained that. So, when you went into the psych ward, you booked yourself in for 6 days, and you covered yourself up, like wrapped yourself up, did the memory start surfacing then, while you were in the psych ward? How did you start making sense? Well, did you have someone there that was able to help you? Were you trusting someone at that point yet to share what you were feeling in the psych ward at the time? How did you start separating what was going on?
Well, they knocked me out for 3 days. So for the first 3 days, I was just so glad to be sleeping. I'd wake up to eat, shower, and then just go back to sleep. But once I was restored, I had written, within 3 days, I had filled up an entire notebook with written memories and drawings of my super soldier memories, but another patient stole it from me. And when I was in there, it looked like either demonically possessed people or pill seekers. But then the other extreme was, I met a man there where he's like, my dreams come true. I tell people about my dreams, they don't listen, and then they get hurt, and I can't handle it anymore. And he goes, I signed myself in here. And I'm like, well, when it came to the doctors, that was part of the reason. It wasn't only the super soldier stuff, but because I get dreams and visions and they come true, what I did was I told the doctors, I said, I have dreams. I tell people what's going to happen. They don't listen. They wind up getting hurt, and I can't take it anymore. I never told them about the super soldier stuff, because I figured if I did, they would throw away the key and I'd never get out. And I just needed a little bit of help at that time. So in face to face, I just had my attorney. My friends, I wound up giving them up and just staying home. And I had a dog and cat, so if I wanted to go anywhere, I brought my dog. I started turning my life around, where once I was an extrovert, I started becoming an introvert and just keeping to myself and secluded and reclusive. For 2 years, my attorney did my food shopping for me, so I did not leave my house unless I had to. And he was worried about me getting stalked because of an incident that happened at a shopping center, but I thought he was overreacting. Nonetheless, he did my food shopping for 2 years, until I was stupid enough to get a boyfriend. But anyway, let me stay on topic. All right.
Oh, lovely. Well, before we go there, and I want to hear more of that, perhaps you can tell us about the 10 months that you lost your ability to speak. Maybe you can give us some kind of indication of what your thoughts were during that time. I can imagine your entire being would have gone into a state of shock. So just trying to just opening your mouth, saying words was impossible. I so get what you're saying there. Just don't talk to me, don't come near me, let me be. I'm trying to just that time of being with yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with us a little bit about what that was like.
I could type. So even though I couldn't talk very well, I could say thank you or come here or keeper to call my dog. But beyond that, I was mute. It If I did talk, it sounded like a 3-year-old kid, and it wasn't worth it.
Just
When I
sorry, I want to just interject there on that point, if you don't mind. I'm interested to know if you think the muting that you had for those 10 months was part of the programming. Do you think that was your body in shock, or do you think part of their programming was for you not to talk, to be muted?
Yes, I think it is to be muted, but at that time, I think it was pure shock. I
Right.
think it was pure shock because I was like, "Oh my God, what have I been used for? What have I done? Nobody's going to believe me." At least there's a couple of videos online of Max Spears and a couple other people that I remember being trafficked with. At least I'm not alone, so I can show other videos. But I very much am in tune with the spirit realm, if you will. So that was very chaotic and hectic to me. I didn't stand a chance to understand it. But for the 10 months, I would get online and I put my diary, my ruminations and confessions up. So whatever was in my mind, I was getting out. And I remember one night, I couldn't take it anymore, so to speak. And I think the video is still up. But there I was I was at my attorney's house living with him. And I was sitting in his office, and I couldn't take what was happening in the world around me. And I put up a video for 5 minutes, I think it was. And I just cried. And I was like, guys, look at the world around us. Like, I don't know if I should curse, but I'm like, we're effed. We're done, guys. And then what's happened to me? I lost it. I was just a nervous wreck. But I would type, I would draw pictures, and I would get in people's chat rooms and comment and stuff. But when I would go out hiking with my dog, I would actually start to sing to try to open up my mouth and get my mouth working again. But I think honestly, it was mainly shock at that point. I did take a while though and talk. I thought it over with myself first and foremost, and I made a decision that I wanted to come forward. And I brought that to my attorney, and he was my father figure again, at least at that time. I was not in communication with my mother, stepdad, or other family members. I was disowned, actually, because when I was waking up, they didn't know what to do. So they just called the cops on me instead of coming over to say, hey, Holly, are you okay? Do you want to get a meal and talk about things? But what was I saying? So my attorney, oh, geez, I just lost track of what I was saying.
No, all good, all good. It'll come back. It'll come back. So, what was it like the day you started speaking again?
Good. It was hard. What it was is that my attorney, he would make me go into his office one day a week. And I'd be like, Greg, I can't. He'd be like, answer the phones. So that's what got me talking again. He was like, go answer the phones. And one lady actually said something to my attorney, and he was like, you know, I don't want to say anything, but she's learning to speak again. Okay. Something happened. She's learning to talk again. I'm just leaving it there. And he was like, Holly, it's my business. It's my phones. And you got to start talking again. So actually, it was kind of him. He kind of like stood me at the edge of the deep end of the pool and then kicked me in. Take a breath and then kicked me in. So the first time that was on his phones going, hi, this is Greg's office. How may I help you? It was like, I was so choppy, but I just kept at it. And now I don't shut up.
Yeah.
So
What a beautiful angel he was in your life is. I mean, people like that, will never be in the past tense. They're forever in the present tense. When somebody has recognized not only your trauma, but has put themselves out there in such a wonderful way to show kindness, caring, compassion, and an absolute belief in you, because he totally believed in you. And his wisdom, the wisdom he had, he knew, she's got to come into my office and answer phones. That's how we're going to get her chatting again. It's not and you know what was so good? Because it wasn't like going to a counselor or anything. It was like impersonal. The phones need to be answered. Come, I need your help, please. You know,
yeah,
that I think is so beautiful, because that is such a wonderful way that he manipulated you, but in the best possible way, right? Unmanipulated you into
yeah,
believing that you needed to be muted.
yep.
So I always honor people like that, because that is truly a
It
gift
is.
of your life, really. He
Yes,
gave you your life back.
he did. He did. And he was also a musician. He played bass and guitar. I never knew how to play instruments, but he had a full drum kit. And when I lived with him, I would get banging on that thing. But when he had come home from one trip and he's like, Holly, we should jam sometime. He goes, I saw a video of you at your friend's house banging on the drum set. Anyway, so he'd play his bass and I would try to get a beat down and him and I would like jam together. It was a lot of fun. Even though I didn't have experience playing the drums, I could still hold a beat because it's kind of like dancing, moving your feet and hands and keeping them together. But so I don't know why I brought that up. Forgive me. So
Yeah, I think that is absolutely, I think that is so cool. I think that is so, so cool. Um, Interesting. I wanted to ask you as well, um, the morphing faces that you were seeing. Do you think from people, you mentioned that. Now, a while ago, I watched a very interesting movie, They Live. And I think that was a movie that Caleb Jade actually recommended on our channel, which is really this guy or this movie where you put on sunglasses and you can literally see who's human and who has the funny face. Let's just call it that, the dead man's face, right? Um, and I'm wondering if it was something like that, or if it was maybe a part of the detox from the LSD, the drugs, all the programming that you would have had? Or do you think you were able to see the essence of the people?
I think it was the essence of the people, and it was
Yeah.
especially heightened during that time. I had stopped to get gas one night, and the gas. I was acquainted with the gas attendant because it was right near my house. I went in to grab a Coca-Cola, and when I walked up behind the gas attendant, I tapped I tapped the back of his arm to say, "Excuse me, here's the dollar for the Coke." And he turned at me. His eyes were already dark brown and it was nighttime, but they had seemed to get darker. But he turned around and looked at me. He opened up his eyes wide, and with a different voice, he goes, "I like when you do that." He turned away, went to help the other customer. I saw how much the price was, and I gave him exact change and drove off. And what was really strange is when I went back a couple days later, because this gas station was right near where I lived in Newfoundland, his other coworkers said that he not only quit there, but he moved out of the house. They don't know where he went. He's gone. He just vanished. They said he came home from work one night, and the next day he moved out. He's gone. I was like, wow, I don't know. But that wasn't the only time. There was another day when I was driving to my doctor's office, and it seemed like not everybody, but a lot of them.
Holly, please, Holly, sorry. Please carry on. I've just got someone at my gate for some reason. Please carry on. I beg your pardon.
I can chat. Okay, cool. Oh, you guys are stuck with me. Yes, yes. So, oh no, what was I saying? There was one day I was driving down to my doctor's office, and I was passing by the other drivers on the road. Not all of them, but it seemed like a good percentage, like 70% of drivers. Their face, I'd see the person, but their face would kind of turn white. And then their eyes and mouth would like get sunken in and turn black. And their face would be pale white. Not everybody, but just about everybody. One time rolling up on a red light, it looked like a grandson driving his grandmother in the slow lane as I approached from behind them. But then at the red light, I was stopped even with them. And when I looked over at the grandson driving his grandmother, it wasn't a grandson. I kid you not, it was a little gray alien. So this little gray alien was projecting as like her grandson, but it wasn't her grandson. She was a human, but not her grandson. So I think that was more of a spiritual thing. And, also in 2014, well, in January 2014, I'd quit all of my prescriptions. And by doing that, that woke me up. I had used medicinal cannabis, which helps break down the MK Ultra program. That helped me wake me up.
It does. Yeah. Sorry, I want to just say this. Anyone who thinks cannabis is bad and over anything, when you have too much of it is never good. But honestly, sorry to interject there, Holly, carry on. But definitely, I would highly recommend that. And I know that I don't know if this is legal or not for wherever you're living, but microdosing with mushrooms is because mushrooms rebuild the brain and the neural pathways in the brain. So it's actually incredible for natural healing. But anyway, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry, please carry on. But I did, sorry.
I don't know about microdosing. I'm more of a macrodoser, even with tea. It seems I need a lot more. But I'll tell you.
You said my kind of girl, Holly. You said my kind of girl.
I'm a macrodoser. Like, if you're going to give me, just give it to me. I'll decide how much I need.
It reminds me just as a little joke here. When I was living in Thailand, I was sharing a house with Olav and another German guy, Michael. And Michael was one of these trust fund babies, but boy, he was wild. I mean, like every morning, he's up and doing, I'm like, gosh, guy, just calm down, but like extreme everything, right? And he would wake up with these mug of coffee every morning, 2 shots of whiskey, and he calls it Michael dosing. Oh my God, I'm not even awake, and yeah, you're doing Michael dosing. Give me a break already.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I tell you, mushrooms. I don't know. I think here you would have to pay a doctor. But, when I was younger, when I did mushrooms, I just sat there and laughed and laughed and laughed. I always enjoyed them, always. So,
I,
anyway,
I think, that they really are an incredible teaching plant, I believe. That it's an incredible teacher plant, that it really, really, really is. Michael Dosing, yeah. And but anything that I think you do, and something like that, you need to do with someone who's trusted, someone who you really trust. And I would not, I mean, depending on the situation, I would rather go with the micro dosing with that, especially if survivors, especially, have had drugs forced on them and had these out of body experiences. Um, I think, but I do know. I mean, lots of. There was a 4-year-old little boy that I was working with a few years ago. He could not talk. He could literally not talk, and his mother asked me for a miracle. And I said, well, I can't give you a miracle. I said, but I believe cannabis is the holy herb. I call it the holy herb. That's my own word for it, by the way. Um, and I said, I have some, and at this stage, it was actually still illegal, yeah. And I said, but of course, we make it. My partner then made my own oil, knew how to make it, did it. And I made my own THC, but I mixed it with coconut oil because coconut oil is an extremely good carrier and it allows for much better absorption in the body. That little kid had 2 quarter teaspoon, not even quarter teaspoons of that stuff for 2 nights that he went to bed. On the third day, he could not stop speaking. He could not stop speaking.
yeah, nice. I believe it because I would have been lost if I didn't have cannabis. So I was using Purple Granddaddy because it helped with the body pain and kept me kind of sedated, but also hungry. So I wanted to eat. But yeah, I would have been lost without the cannabis. I needed the help, and that worked. It worked a miracle, I think. So
I I truly believe that because I think all of these things that we've been taught are bad or evil and been arrested for. I mean, for God's sake, how many people have been arrested over the decades for having dealing in cannabis or using it, right? And I
yeah,
mean, if you look at Bob Marley, I mean, Bob Marley is the original holy herb connoisseur, king of kings. I mean,
right.
you know and okay, no one has to be Bob Marley to that extent, but if you understand the consciousness of which he speaks, you understand a lot of things about why it's so. I love him. I absolutely love him. Absolutely. And it's legal here in South Africa as well. And I got to tell you, guys, the Malawians are our neighbors, right? And a lot of the Malawians come to South Africa to work. And of course, a lot of them come to my area because it's so similar to Malawi. And of course, yeah, in this area, for many years, long before it was legalized, there was the Cannabis Cup, which was where they literally have world competitions from all over the world of who grows the best cannabis. This area won hands down all the time. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because the Malawians are natural farmers, and all the Malawians will go and work on these farms, right? I have one who has spent 5 years working there. And I said, I think we need to make a little garden because we need to make some oil. He said, yes, we can. I said, let's do it. Just my little mini garden. You are allowed, I don't know how many plants, who cares? I mean, But it's amazing. It is an absolutely brilliant healing plant. It really is. I'm gonna I'm gonna highly anyone who has anything that is, and I think what we must really realize, and I will say this to anyone, no matter how badly you've been wounded, you are not broken. They have taught you to believe that you are broken. And anything that's broken, think about a glass that's smashed into 1,000 pieces. No one, no one can even think about how you can put that together. So the human psyche just believes on a very core level, I am broken. And I'm telling you, they're speaking shit. You are not broken. All that's happened is the real you, your essence has been stretched, maybe fractured, put into a box, twisted and turned into something that is not authentically you. And as you start the beautiful healing process, and the cannabis plant enables you to start that process because it opens you up it opens you up to start seeing and feeling and realizing deeper truths. So all that happens, it's like you now get out of this tiny matchbox that you've been squished in, and suddenly you start realizing, wow. And that's what starts happening. You start being coming together. Your core essence starts calling itself back together. And then you realize, and it's like, Holly, you spoke about having 169 altars. What a fascinating, I would love to talk to each and every one of them. I really
They
would, because
want to talk to you.
I would so love that, because I think they've got the most fascinating stories to tell. And we must never forget your altars are all part of you, even though they have attached all sorts of nasty things. Get that out, and your altars are still part of you. They can't wait to meet each other. They can't wait to have this happy reunion, but in a beautiful, coherent way. And I think that what every person, every survivor of no matter what needs to realize, they cannot break you. They've never broken you. They've never been able to break you. They might have fooled you and fooled your mind in very sophisticated ways. Yes, that's way beyond human understanding right now, because they're not using human technology. So it really does hurt the human, but we are unbreakable. And
Say that.
people like you absolutely highlight that for me every day of my life. And I'm so happy to be talking to people like you. You're very precious. So thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. Thank you.
But you're not going yet.
Good.
Wait. You got some pictures.
Oh,
I
that's
want to
right.
hear about you. I like your pictures.
Okay. I've cornered the market on stick figure drawings, that's for sure. um, so this is a drawing I told you guys about Blair's Den. It was also used as a monastery, and the programmer came to my house and took me out one night and drove me a few miles down the road to this place, Blair's Den, but also used as the monastery. And I tried to draw what it looked like in the room that us kids were standing in when the programmer brought me in. We walked in the front door, and I was tied, so he carried me in. Um, well, he walked up a lot of stairs, then in through the front door and to the left. And he stood me there and started to untie me and take the hood off my head. So there were the group of kids I tried to draw, and the adults that were in the room. And I tried to draw what it looked like from my perspective. And if that makes sense. I'm not a good drawer.
Sorry, no, that is absolutely fantastic. Actually, I love. That's exactly how I draw. I can't draw. You know what? I come from a family of profound artists. Okay, you don't understand. My grandmother was at the age of 15 was given a scholarship at one of the top universities in South Africa because she was such a good artist. My mother, my sisters, my brother's an incredible sculptor. Me, that's how I draw. That's why I love it.
Yes. So they have,
That's cute.
yeah. Um, yeah, they had us ties and hoods. I think it's an all right drawing. I think it gets the point across, you know.
So tell us what, okay, these monasteries, okay, here's another one. What
Okay.
is that about?
Okay. So the adults, when they took off the hoods, some of the adults took the kids into other parts of the mansion, and the adults in the room that I was in started to consume alcohol and drugs and offer the kids alcohol and drugs. But the programmer took me out of that room and he brought me to behind the monastery or to another area on the property. And there on the property was Ravine Lake, and it had a river or a creek that ran off from it. And a public road ran along that river, and it also ran along Ravine Lake. But I tried to draw what it looked like that night when the programmer told me to go back to the truck and get the rope, and he made me decorate a cage comfortable, and the programmer forced a boy with his dog into the cage, and then he lowered the cage down into the lake. And when it was time to go, the programmer and I were walking back to his car that was parked on the road, the public road. And I kept looking back over my shoulder at the lake where the boy and the dog were in the cage in the lake. And the programmer screamed at me to never mind, forget about it, get in the car. And he returned me home that night. But it didn't set well with me because I did go back for the children. However, the programmers, there was a lady programmer. When I went back to get the children, when the programmer brought me back home, things did not sit right. So later that night, I walked back to the monastery from my house. It's only 2 or 3 miles away from where I grew up, this monastery. So when I went back, I found a couple of the kids and I untied them. The boy and the dog were not in the cage anymore. I don't know where they were, but I was able to get a few of the kids, and they walked back with me to my grandmother's house. And it was strange because my grandmother seemed like she was in a trance, but she stood at the stove cooking eggs and toast and bacon, and a knock came at the door. And it was a female programmer that I had recognized from the Dumbs. And it looked like she refrained or like restrained herself. So instead of beating me senseless for going to take the kids, she just told me, Holly, you can never do that again. And she rounded up the kids and left with them, and I never saw them again. So I tried to make a drawing of what it looked like, outside by the lake when the programmer was yelling for me to get the rope and yelling at me to decorate the cage. I tried to draw what it looked like from my memory. Wait. You're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. You're muted. Oh my.
That's
slow on the
That's
uptake. I could have just said, Shanti, you're muted, but instead I'm signaling to you. Like, I'm a bad co-pilot.
that is funny, actually. I'm always muted. So yeah, oh my goodness. Wow, fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. So yeah, I think I've kind of covered most of what I wanted to connect with you or chat to you about this evening, just on questions and stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, I think one of the things that really is highlighted for me, obviously, is the child hunting parties that you obviously were. Was it just at with? That's what I wanted to ask you. When we talk about the child hunting parties, it was the ones you attended, obviously. Were they just at the castle, Queen Elizabeth? What did you experience there from your memory?
Uh,
What was that like for you? Did you see them shift into all sorts of dodgy things? And I know we have spoken about this before, but maybe you can just walk us through that again.
yeah, the Queen shape shifted. At Buckingham Palace in the dungeons, there was a man and woman that were beating the kids and doing the trauma, torture stuff, very ritualistic. Queen Elizabeth and her whole clan shape shifted. I think that's the human hunting party that I was reenacting in my head. Um, they had stripped us kids down, and then I think it was a woman who was screaming at us kids to run. And I'm like, no, I don't want to run. No, I don't want, I know. I don't want to even understand what's going to happen right now. And I started running with the other kids. The other kids, we were so terrified and frightened, but you were not allowed to freeze. They made you run. Um, um, I forget the question. I think during that human hunting party, there was water on the property, and I ran through the water because they had dogs, and I wanted to get the scent off of me, and it was freezing cold. Um, the other, so that's the one I remember the most. But the other one was at Castle Ameroy, and I remember the deer stands. I think I made it to a deer stand at Castle Ameroy. The only other thing I remember is they were torturing us, and it was extremely ritualistic and sacrificial. And they were torturing us, a small group of kids. It was me and about 6 other kids. And it felt like they were torturing us for a solid week at least. And when these witches were done, I remember we were outside. Us kids were outside, and there was a tricycle. And the witches the adults walked from the main castle out to another side building, big. But I think that's where the 1,000 points of light are. Anyway, oh, I did tell you this. That's when I learned what a sacrifice was, because they picked a child from among us and took it in the room and sacrificed it. And I remember saying to one of the little kids, like, well, how come? So why did they do so good? Why do they get to be sacrificed? And the one little kid had said, they're going to kill that child. It's not a good thing. But again, it was just Buckingham Palace that I remember more of the chasing and running and hearing guns fired and dogs. And it sounded like they were on dirt bikes chasing after us too. So I'm not sure if that was your question, Shanti. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I can't hear you again. I'm sorry. At least I said something instead of like.
Okay, I keep, because if there's a noise outside, I switch off the sound so that it doesn't disturb and the dogs. But I keep forgetting to switch it on. No, what I was saying was absolutely, it covers completely what you're asking. Um, what I've also heard from other survivors of these disgusting parties is that you would have obviously the kids that were marked for to be killed. Then you'd have those that the hierarchy kids or the bloodline kids or whatever that still were part of this hunt, but they were not allowed to be killed, but possibly wounded or tortured or raped or whatever it might be. And some of them would say they would wear different color t-shirts, or others would say they had name or numbers on the t-shirts. I know one of the South African survivors, or actually she was a Rhodesian survivor, um, spoke about them having the teddy bears picnic. They had to go to the teddy bears picnic, which I think was part of their her father's lineage, though some bear type of secret society that they were involved in. So I'm not sure if that was affiliated with that. So I'm wondering if you can collaborate on any of those points there.
Oh boy, Shanti, I don't. Um, I have snippets of memories coming back.
Right.
I think they did. Where I grew up in Far Hills in my normal life, we always had these fox chases every year. And as a small child, I could never go to them because of the bugle sounds, or fox hunts. Um, and going to those fox hunts as a small child, my mother forced me to go to one year, and I hid in the car the entire time. But I think they had numbers on them. I think the adults wore numbers because we were used as a sport, or they did it as a sport. But I didn't understand like what was happening. So they raped me, they abused me, but they did not kill me. Um, I remember when the hunt was over, I think if I remember correctly, I was walking. I think there was a sound to say the hunt's over, and I was walking through a field, and the adults just ripped apart a child like it was no problem and feasting on the remains. This was sheer enjoyment and eating the heart of your enemy. Um, but it's just really snippets. So I probably am not going to be very good at elaborating on that. Excuse me.
I think that what you've just said from the snippets completely collaborates with because obviously you would have been a bloodline child as well, which meant that you had to be saved, but it didn't mean you weren't tortured
Yeah.
or had any trauma inflicted upon you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I still went through it, but they didn't kill me. It would have
Thank God.
probably been easier if they did. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But
Yeah, listen, I think at the end of the day, when you go through that kind of torture, I would imagine that one often wishes for death because, and the crazy part is from what we're hearing as well, dying doesn't matter because they just bring you back again. How many times have the super soldiers told us that? I mean, Akim Ra is definitely one I know for sure that has spoken about that a lot. It's like, dish, they'll destroy you there, and you just wake up in another body somewhere else. And you know, have you had experiences like that too?
well, the one experience I have coming to mind right now, I was sent out on an assignment with a small team of people, and memory comes to, I guess I snapped out of altar, and we were on a plane, and one of my teammates got shot in the stomach, and then I saw another teammate, the bad guy had us. I guess it was another part of the military that we were battling. They had gotten a hold of us. They threw a second soldier on my team out the window or out the door. And when I saw that happen, I broke hold. They were holding me down. I broke their hold and I made my way out the airplane. They were going to kill me anyway, but I wasn't going to let them push me out. So I made my own way out the plane. And I remember the other soldier, David, and I plummeting to the earth and just smacking the ground, and we died. I had a death experience and everything. We died. But the way that I make heads or tails of it is that I think because of the chipping, and I do think demonic possession was involved, and with the genetics and with the surgical enhancements, if they did use any advanced technology inside me, I think with all of that combined, we reanimated. I remember coming back to life after that. I remember sitting up after that and standing up, and David and I then returning back, walking back through the jungle back to our team. I think they came looking for us anyway, but I remember coming back to life after that, and it was extremely painful. Even in the dumps, Mengele would drown us, leave us dead for 4 minutes or something, a specific amount of time, and then resuscitate us, and then just go do it again. I guess that would be the waterboarding. But I always thought that they were training. I don't know if that makes sense, but I always thought that they were programming our souls by doing that, because we'd have 1 foot in death, but 1 foot in this world. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think the level of spiritual abuse the level of spiritual abuse that has occurred against you survivors, it's not just spiritual, it's emotional, it's mental, it's physical. I mean, the tortures are on all 4 levels,
Yeah.
and we understand. And I'm also going to be looking at doing a show actually with Chris Latteran and I were talking, and we're going to be looking at doing something on MK Ultra and MK Often, because MK Often is the sister to MK Ultra, which is along with the MK Ultra, which is that hardcore mind breaking mind control, right? You have the MK Often, which is the spiritual programming, so the demonic programming, the all the witchy stuff that they do. So the bringing in of the demonic entities and stuff like that. So now it's spiritual warfare. It's not just psychological warfare. Now they've brought in spiritual warfare as well. I mean, how you kids survived is a miracle. I will never say that enough times. It just shows to me the resilience of
Yeah.
the human spirit, but more specifically, your spirit and every other survivor out there, you know, to go through that kind of torture and to come back and still feel love and actually want to give a shit about another human being. And especially the ones who walked around dumbass for years, didn't even know what was going on, right? I would be so frustrated with humanity if I was a survivor. I mean, like,
Yeah.
now you guys are all waking up. Hello, where you been the last 30 years sitting on whatever while this is going on? I mean, I can imagine there must be such a host of emotions that come along with awakening from this hell. So
Oh,
again, thank you.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
I agree, Leanne. The fear of death becomes desensitized. And I know that's why they will often take you survivors of these extreme experiments to the brink of death and then bring you back because, just, so that they teach you not to fear death because you can just come back. But also, death for many people is a way out, right? Not
Yeah.
just coming back and being re-traumatized and re-traumatized. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holly, is there anything you want to say to us in closing this evening? All your website and stuff is out there. Where can people get hold of you? I love your Facebook. I highly recommend everyone follow Holly on Facebook.
Be prepared now.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I love it. So, any final words from you, hun?
Oh, just thank you so much, Shanti, for this opportunity. I loved every second of it, and I really love everybody in your chat room. And thank you so much. I want to say hello to Emma from Imagination Podcast, and just I really appreciate you very much, Shanti, and spending time with you. So you're stuck with me, but I really enjoy doing this series with you a lot, and it's definitely a highlight of my life. And as far as people contacting me, I'm like, All right. Well, before we go, you can email me at Holly Baglio at myyahoo.com. HOLLYBAGLIO at myyahoo.com. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, primarily Facebook and YouTube. So just look up my name and you'll find me.
And that is your wrong email address there still that we have on there. We've still got the Gmail one, so I will update that in the next few days.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just quickly Chico, yes, MK Afton. Definitely going to be been researching that for a while. Going to be doing a show on that. Chris and I are talking about that. But hey, Holly, maybe you want to come and join it. But I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay, guys. God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves. Have a fantastic, wonderful, awesome weekend.
Yes.
And no, don't be good. Don't. Just don't. Whatever you're not meant to do, just go do it. Okay, bye.